Home is the dream and owning is a scream. I am your guest host, Christopher Paul Dugdale, MEDMA. We are Duncanville High School in these United States, and today is May 21st, 2021. And on this date in history in 1927, so a short 94 years ago, Charles Lindbergh became the first person to fly a non-stop solo transatlantic flight. Now, 5 years later to the day, Amelia Earhart did the same thing, becoming the first woman to do that flight. But a little bit of that was lost because just 9 days earlier, they had found Lindbergh's dead baby. And for some reason, people wanted to talk a lot more about a dead baby than they did about a woman crossing the Atlantic. Yeah. Let's bury the lead, people. Anyway, have a good day. Homeownership has been the American dream since the 1940s. The idea of having a place that you can call your own, that you don't have to pay rent on. It's a nice dream to have. Well, anyway, we're going to look at how that is possible and why you might want to do that. Now, benefits of homeownership. You have anything from building wealth to money you can save on your taxes each year, to having security and building good credit. In fact, one of the things that has always kept its value has been property. Okay, now if your house is in shambles, you want to be careful with that. But keeping a house in good shape and maintaining it, that is a way to build and maintain your wealth. Okay, so as the owner of a house, you have several responsibilities. You need to pay your mortgage on time every month, which helps out your credit score. So if you're going to try and buy a car, a pool, another house, or anything else, as long as you're maintaining all of your payments, then it makes you look like a lot less of a credit risk. Okay, property taxes. Generally, if you're taking out a mortgage, your property taxes and your insurance will be rolled into your mortgage payment. But once you get the house paid off, you will continue to need to pay these two items. And this is normally about a third the cost of a house each month. So while you might be paying $1,200 a month when you buy the house, you may only be paying around $400 a month once you pay it off in both insurance and property taxes. And make sure that you keep insurance on your home, because if it burns down, that's covered through your taxes. If it's burglarized or if a natural disaster happens, it's protected on your insurance, so you want to make sure you're careful with that. You also want to make sure that you maintain your home, water the foundation so you don't have major cracks in the foundation. They don't tell you to do this, but if you install a sprinkler system, it's a good idea to put in a drip irrigation system near the foundation of your home, just to keep the ground from expanding and destroying your house. Also, make sure you change out the vents on your AC regularly. Okay, anyway. Okay, so home purchase costs. Okay, you're going to, whenever you buy a home, you borrow $100,000 from the bank. There's going to be some closing costs in that, and you could pay it's normally at least $3,000. It can be a lot more, and that includes a credit report fee, appraisal fee, a down payment, and closing cost. Okay. Now, sometimes whenever you buy a house, you can work in to where the owner pays the closing cost, but it just varies. Okay. Your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, your PITI. Okay. This is something that you will pay throughout your mortgage. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Taxes and insurance you will continue paying even once you pay the house off. Now, if you get a general FHA loan, okay, from the Federal Housing Authority, they will require you to get a PMI, a personal mortgage insurance. Now, this does not benefit you in any way whatsoever. It just kind of protects the bank in the event that you do not pay back your loan. So it doesn't benefit you in any way, but you have to do it until you pay down at least 20% the value of your home. That's generally the standard for that. Now, you can find that out at the time you're buying the house, And if you can buy and pay 20% equity into the house whenever you do that, then you'll save the $40 on up on mortgage insurance a month. You also have moving in expenses, where if you have to rent a truck or pay people to move you in, or if you're able to do it yourself with the vehicles that you have. Okay, and then you want to keep an emergency or reserve fund. Things happen whenever you own a home. The AC goes out, and if you're lucky, that's a $5,000 to $10,000 fix if it goes out completely. If you're not watering your foundation as you properly should, that could be a $3,000 fix, or that could be a $20,000 fix, just depending on how severe the damage is. So if you always have a little bit of money in reserve, and as what happened with the freeze, if you lose power and a pipe bursts in your house, then it will pay to fix the damage in the wall, your plumbing, and anything damaged by the water. So just something to keep in mind when you're buying a house. Okay. Now, loan types. You have a couple different types of loans. One, you have a fixed rate mortgage. These are much safer. That means that if you borrow money for 15, 20, or 30 years, which is the three most common terms for a mortgage, the interest rate will stay the same the entire time that you have a loan. Now, and this is all under the thought that you don't refinance the mortgage. Okay, you have adjustable rate mortgages. Okay, this is what's called an ARM, and this you might have a 5-year ARM or 7-year ARM or something in that type of time period. And what it does is it only guarantees the interest rate for the first 5 to 7 years. And if the interest rate goes up during that time, that could really make your payment jump up. Okay? So you want to be very careful if you get an adjustable ARM mortgage, because that could make your rate 3 to 4 times the amount that it normally is. So you just want to be careful if you get an adjustable rate mortgage. Actually, if you can, avoid it, just because even though it gives you a lower payment for the short term, it could cost you a lot throughout the length of your mortgage. It could double or triple your payments depending on how high the rates are able to go in that type of mortgage. So a fixed rate mortgage will guarantee you the same price. The only thing will vary on your mortgage if you have a fixed rate is if your property taxes go up or if your monthly insurance goes up. So just some things to keep in mind. So compare loan features and terms. Okay, your interest rate is a very important thing to look at whenever you're comparing different types of mortgages. Also, the initial interest rate on the ARM. Okay, because again, it can make your payment really cheap for the first few years, but then it will balloon up and maybe increase. Like if you're paying $1,000 the first 5 to 7 years. Then once that ARM is done, it can go up each year, I believe, for 5 years. And it might go from paying $1,000 a month to $1,800 a month. So you want to be careful with any type of ARM mortgage that you get. Okay? The repayment period. Normally, most mortgages are done for about 30 years, but you will see some for 15 years and for 20 years. Okay? Now, you can do things to pay down the loan faster without having to refinance it. In fact, if you make an extra payment each year, and you do that towards the principal, then you could save yourself 6 years of the mortgage right there just by making those extra payments. And everything you do in the first 5 to 10 years is worth a lot more than anything in the last 5 to 10 years, just because you're paying hardly any principal at all at the beginning of your mortgage. Check to make sure that there's not a prepayment penalty for your mortgage. And look at the fees and the annual percentage rate, the APR. Lock-in options and fees. Now, a lot of times you can lock in the rate for your mortgage sometimes 30 to 90 days before. So just see your lender as you're getting ready to do that. Okay, so how much of a mortgage can you qualify for? Okay, now part of it's going to depend on how much money that you have, that you make, and how much you're putting down in your down payment. Okay, because one, they're going to want to make sure that any house you buy is the actual value of the house that you're buying. Okay, so that is number one. Okay, number two, is the debt to income ratio. Normally, they will not let you spend over 40% of what you make. Now, they'll look for your W-2s or the amount of money that you made the last 2 or 3 years going up, and a couple of your last few checks. Okay, that's what they should be doing to verify your salaries. Okay, and housing cost income ratio is the same. That's the whole 40%. So they want to see how much debt you have too. So if you're making $2,500 a month and you have $2,000 in credit card payments and car payments every month, then you're not going to be able to qualify for a mortgage on a house. The loan to value ratio. So the lender is willing to lend up to 90% of the property value. Okay, so this is another thing, and this has to do with anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about this. So if you have a $200,000 property, they will let you borrow up to $180,000. Okay, now a lot of places will let you borrow up to 100%, and in some cases they'll even let you roll in the down payment and the closing cost into the price of the mortgage. So just something to keep in mind when you are looking at buying a house. The debt to income ratio. So this is something that's formulated based on the amount of money that you make each month versus how much money that you owe. And this will show just how much you might have available to make a payment. So the total monthly debt payments compared to gross monthly income. So if you make $3,000 a month and your car payment's $400 and this payment, that payment is another $600, then you would have $2,000 that would be available for a mortgage. Okay, so the lower your non-mortgage debt, the bigger the mortgage you can get. So things that fall into that would be credit cards, car, boat if you're buying a boat, or anything else. Total housing expense, mortgage, PTI, PITI plus PMI, and HOA. HOA are house a housing authority. So you might live in a neighborhood where you have to pay fees to live in that neighborhood because they want to make sure that people aren't trashing up the neighborhood, that they mow their yard. Some of these HOAs will have a swimming pool for the neighborhood where you can go use it at any time. That also have a grill there that you can use at any time. Or they might have a play set, they might have a pond for you to fish in. There's a lot of different options that they might have in an HOA. And so that's something that you would also have to pay. So the total cost of the house can't be more than 28% of the gross income. Okay? So the total debt, mortgage, credit cards, car loans, and everything can't be more than 36%. So they look at all of these things as you apply, and they can tell from the credit report just how much your car payment is, how much you owe to the credit card company, and they're able to total up all these things on their own. They also look at how long you've been in a job. Okay, so here's a case where Lee and Shauna earn about $60,000 a year, or about $5,000 a month. Okay, so they can carry a maximum debt of about $1,800 a month. The only debt that they have to pay is their monthly car payment of $275. So they can get a mortgage payment of about $1,525 a month, which means they can get a house for somewhere between $140,000 to $160,000. Okay, and then that payment would fall in line with the amount of month that they make salary-wise. So when you're shopping for a home, how will you find your home? Okay, you can drive around, find for sale signs in the yard. There you're dealing with the owner, and you're not going to pay any commission fees. Okay, but then again, if you're shopping for something in particular, imagine you want a certain number of bedrooms, or you want to be in a certain neighborhood, or you want to have a house that's a certain age. Now, you might be able to do your homework and find this out on your own, but you have to decide that up front. Now, most of the time what you'll do is you will find a real estate agent, and you will pay them about 3% of the total cost of the house. They will receive that amount. and normally the person that's selling the house will pay 3% also. So that's going to be 6% that goes off of the listing price of the house. Okay, you can also drive around for open house events where you get to go and walk through the house without any pressure, without a real estate agent. You know, sometimes you do it without an agent, sometimes you do it with an agent. But the truth is, you don't have to use a real estate agent. It just, since they do this on a normal basis, they might be able to do things that will protect you during the sale process, or but realize you're going to pay them money. If you're going to buy a $150,000 house, that means that your agent's going to make about $5,000, and the agent for the person selling the house is going to make about $5,000. So, that can turn into a lot of money in a short amount of time. By the way, I don't know what I was thinking whenever I said that just a minute ago. It's actually 6% that a real estate agent charges. So it's not just 3.5%, or it's not just 3%. So on a $150,000 house, that means they would make about $9,000, and another $9,000 for the agent that's selling the house. So about $18,000 that profit goes there. And for those of you who are thinking about becoming real estate agents, you sell a house worth $500,000, you're looking at somewhere around a $30,000 commission. Now, generally, you'll pay about half of that to the agency that you're part of. Anyway, it gets a little bit more complex than that, but it can make a lot of money for a lot of people. Okay, a real estate agent is able to use the MLS, or multiple listings service. So there you can go through and look through a large number of houses that they have available, and it's easier for them to whittle them down to the ones that you want. So if you're looking to move into, say, South Arlington, there might be 20,000 houses for sale at any one moment in that area. But they can find the one that has a 3-bedroom, that has a 3-car garage, or a swimming pool in the backyard, or a side entry garage door. Whatever you're looking for, they can find that really through the MLS. And these are people that are selling in these same neighborhoods all the time, so they kind of know the houses and know some of the problems that they might have in a certain neighborhood. They kind of walk you through the buying process. They'll make sure that you are qualified for a loan before you go out. In this market right now, there's crazy things going on, and it is much better to be a seller than a buyer today. They handle all the paperwork. Now, they do get a big chunk of money for doing that, but they do handle the paperwork, and they really only will make money if they sell a house. So there's a lot of incentive for them to find you something that you'd like, that you're willing to buy. So when you find a house, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Okay, for one, you need to make sure that the offer that you're making is unless you have cash that you don't have to finance, you need to make sure that the house that you're wanting to buy is worth the amount that you're trying to pay for it, because the bank won't loan you money unless the house is worth the amount you're trying to get, or to get out of it. Okay, so you will probably have to make some type of deposit, and this deposit they get to keep unless the sale falls through and it's their fault. So you get to keep the money otherwise. You'll be making some type of down payment whenever you close. There will be financing terms, and this has to do with getting a mortgage, and closing costs. Okay, in any house, if you're buying a house for about $100,000, you'll be making, with an FHA loan, 3% or $3,000 as part of the down payment, and then you'll have about $4,000 in closing cost. You'll pay some prepaid interest in that. You'll pay for a service where you make sure that they own the property that you're buying. You'll pay prepaid interest on the loan. You'll pay prepaid insurance. You'll pay a prepaid property taxes as well. Okay, Uh, this all happens whenever you take control of the property. So, but you're making an offer and you're bidding against possibly other people, or you might not be bidding against anyone, and you might have a contingency in there. And a contingency means that you are going to buy the house unless this happens. Now, one of the contingencies would be, okay, I will buy this house only if I can sell my house first. So you're hoping that no one has a better offer at the time. They hold that, then you put that on sell. Okay? Now, the problem is if you have a house and you wait to sell it until you bought a new house, then you could end up having two house payments for several months. Okay? So you have that issue right there. But then again, if you sell your house before you find one, you might be homeless for a month or two, while you're trying to get into your new house, or you might have to put your stuff in storage. There's a couple things that might just happen. Okay, this is contingency. So this is what I was talking about earlier. It might be something along the lines of that, but then you have some other things there as well, where you might be making a bid on the house contingent on you getting financing. So it could be that you don't have the credit score high enough to get the property, or the property doesn't appraise for the amount that you want to pay for it. The appraisal tells you the value of the house based on several other similar houses that are in that neighborhood or that area around where you live. Okay, so it helps develop the market value, because if the bank's going to loan you money for the house, they want to make sure the house is worth what they're loaning to you. Okay, you have to get insurance on the house, where if the house is in a floodplain that floods in a normal basis, then you might need special insurance for it. Okay, is the title clear? Okay, does the person who's selling it actually own the title? So that'll be part of the whole process of the mortgage. You'll want to do inspections on any house before you buy it. The building and the structure. Is the foundation good? Do the air conditioners work? Are there leaks in the slab, either on the concrete slab on the foundation, or if it's a pier and beam, is there a leak around there that might rot the wood and make it fall apart? Make sure you don't have termites inside the house. If there's a well, what kind of water is it? Is it contaminated? Is there a lot of sulfur in it that you have to use something special to take all of that out so that you can drink it or bathe in it? Did they paint the walls with lead paint? Is there anything wrong with the soil? And again, back to the flood, and I think I talked about that just a moment ago. Okay, and so once you make the offer and look at all these different things, the seller can do one of three things. They can accept your offer, they can reject it, or they can make a counteroffer. So, accept just means that you want to pay $150,000, they're okay with it, then you've sold the house. Let's say that they want 150 for it and you offer them 100. They could be so angry they just don't want to do business with you anymore. Okay, and I have seen that happen before. Or you have a counteroffer where you say, okay, you want 150 for the house. Well, I want to pay 130, and so they come back and say, okay, we'll sell it for 145. Okay, and then you go back and forth until you find a price that you can settle on, or if you can't settle, then that step is done. Okay, so what to expect from the lender? Okay, so a good faith estimate within 3 days of the application. They disclose your loan cost, give you the interest rates and points if you're doing something where you're trying to make your house payment lower the first few years. You might buy a few points of interest rates the first few years, so you can pay it down a little bit faster or have a smaller monthly payment for the first couple of years. That is something you have to pay. Okay, and then you have closing costs and other fees, and you compare loans. So you'll have a good faith estimate from whatever company you're going to be borrowing money from. They'll be giving you a truth in lending statement. It shows your APR, the annual percentage rate, any finance charges you have, total payments, due dates, and if there's a prepayment penalty, which means that if you pay off the house in 10 years instead of 30, they might charge you something else on top of all of that. Now, a lot of lenders don't do that now, but that is something that you could run into. And then 3, a commitment letter that they will loan you the money. Okay, the closing settlement. So, a couple of days before you finally before you finally sign all the paperwork on the house, you will do a final walkthrough. Look through the house, make sure everything's in order, because if during the inspection they found, okay, they need to fix the front window, or they need to replace the dishwasher, or this wall has a hole in it, you walk through and you see if they actually fix those things. Okay, and if they didn't, then you postpone the closing, or you negotiate some money back on the deal to fix those things. Okay, just depending on what you want to do. So that's before the closing. The day of the closing, you will go down to a place and sign paperwork. It will take you anywhere from about 45 minutes to about 3 or 4 hours, just depending on when the other person signs or how exactly that title company works. And there are title companies everywhere. You don't necessarily sign anything inside the bank. You review and you sign all documents, and they will ask you to sign a bunch of documents. And you'll write a check for any outstanding cost. They might even ask you to get a certified or official check from your bank that ensures that the check that you're giving them doesn't bounce. So you want to make sure whenever you buy the house that you're not getting any risky loans. Okay, again, if you can, avoid getting any type of ARM loan where the rate can go up after 3 to 7 years or whatever the terms of the ARM are, because that could cause your payments to balloon or skyrocket after a few years. Okay, make sure you make all the payments on time. Okay, you don't make them on time, you'll have a late fee, and also you'll have a lot of interest that charges up in that month. Okay, it says make sure you stay current on property taxes, but generally just about any lender will want you to put they will make you pay the property taxes as part of your monthly mortgage. Because if you don't pay that, then the city can put a lien on your house, and if you don't pay it, then they can take possession of it. So the bank is not going to let someone else take possession of something that they, are using to make sure you make your payments. Okay, keep the home in good shape. If anything breaks, you want to fix it, mainly just because you're living there, but also it keeps the value of your home. If you let some things go, it causes irreparable damage. Keep an emergency fund ready. Sometimes air conditioners break down. Sometimes pipes burst. If you don't take care of the foundation, sometimes the foundation moves and breaks a pipe in the house and floods it and causes more problems with the foundation. Okay, not trying to scare anyone, but just realize that sometimes life happens. We have a freeze and you lose power, and the pipes inside the wall burst, and you don't have insurance, or you don't have the right insurance, and you have to fix everything out of your own pocket. Okay, try not to borrow against the money in your home for consumer purchases. Okay, don't try and get a home equity loan, something that's there to fix or improve your house, and spend that money on a car. Okay, and if you have any problems, get help immediately. Find someone who has gone through this before. It'll make all the difference in the world. Hey, thank you for another great day. I hope you all had a great day. Be safe. Don't cocaine. Don't AIDS. And don't COVID. Even if you think that you're fine. If you see someone COVIDing out, go up to them and go, hey, give me full-blown COVID like you. And then you take the vials of COVID and you pour it in your eyes and in your mouth, and then inject it into your directly into your spleen, which would be very difficult to do. Don't do that, okay? I'm your teacher. I will write you up if you do it, so please don't, okay? So this is Doug Dell, and I'll see you on the other side.